So I just want to thank everyone for coming along and welcome to this webinar on your gut health called You Are What You Digest. I am so thrilled that Maha can present for us today. She's going to introduce herself, but thank you for joining us. And Maha, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge today. And I'm going to turn myself off, and I'm really looking forward to watching your presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you for planning this, and thank you everyone who signed up. This is really, I was just telling Jessie, it's just one of my favorite topics ever, because I feel like it's also hasn't been focused on as much, but as you will see right now, it will affect everything in our well-being, every aspect really, from metabolism to weight loss to digestion. So it's really a fascinating world, and there's a lot more trials and study happening at the moment that hopefully soon will actually change a lot of things. So today we're going to talk about that. Once we start, and I'll share with you my slides, I'll also take the camera off. We will leave a section at the end for Q&A, so don't worry. Even if we don't have time today, I'll share my information, and I am happy to answer any questions you have. And I'm very happy to say, I don't know if you're asking me something that I don't know. But yeah, so we're going to start today. I'll share the slides so you can start seeing what I'm talking about. All right. Okay, so as we mentioned, the name of the webinar today is You Are What You Digest, and I'll actually explain why that is. But first, let's just take a look at the highlights of what we're going to be discussing today. So we'll look into our digestive system in a general sense to understand how it works properly and how we can help it work properly. We'll also look into food intolerances, which is a very common topic right now, and also make the distinction between that and food allergies. And then we'll dive into the fascinating world of the gut microbiota, which is, like I said, my favorite topic right now. We'll also shed some lights on prebiotics and probiotics, talk about some of the very, very common diseases that affect the gut microbiota and our digestions, like the IBD. We'll also talk about something fascinating happening, which is the fecal microbiota transplant. This will be a very interesting section actually to discuss. We'll end it with actually showing ways that we can adopt to have an optimal gut health to keep it in check. And if it's not in check right now, how we can reverse it, because we can totally reverse it. And as I said, we'll end it with a little bit of a Q&A. So right now I'll just take myself off and we will start. All right, guys. So a little bit about me before we start, just so you know who's talking to you. So a couple years back, I decided to leave my career in corporate communication and just devote all my time to my passion, which was really fitness. So I became a certified PT, but I quickly realized that in order for me to really help my clients stay healthy and actually achieve their goals, I had to really study a lot more in nutrition science, because the way when you get your certification as a PT, you get a very general information on nutrition, and you're not actually allowed to write meal plans or to put your clients on diets, for example. You're just only there to give them guidelines. And I felt that really isn't enough, because nutrition is 80% of the equation. So it doesn't matter how hard you train at the gym. You could be the hardest person in the room, but like if you're not eating right, then you're really not going to go anywhere. I spent the following years actually studying. So I became a certified nutrition coach, and I really haven't stopped studying since, because nutrition science is one of those topics that is ever changing and ever evolving, and every day there's something new, and what we thought we knew 5 years ago, we now know to be false, and so on. So there's always something new happening and fascinating things coming to light. So yeah, so just even I guess this quarantine, the lockdown that happened here in Dubai really helped me, because I took the time to really dive deep into 2 new courses. One of them I'm actually still haven't finished, but yeah, like always educate yourself. That's what I'm trying to say basically. So beside personal training, as I said, I do offer nutrition plans for my clients, as well as online training. So it could be a weight loss plan, it could be a weight gain plan, but just my goal is to really, my approach is to show people how to lose weight in a healthy way and sustain it. So nothing, no crash, no fad diets, nothing quick fixes, because you'll see the faster you lose weight, the chances are that the faster you're going to gain it back. So nothing that, if it's not sustainable, it's not going to work. That's basically it. So enough about me. Let's dive right in. So we're going to start off with our digestive system. And really, this is where the title of the webinar, you probably heard the phrase, you are what you eat. However, a while back, I really learned it should be, you are what you digest. And that's because our digestive system has to be functioning properly for us to stay healthy and benefit from the food that we eat. Why that is? Well, because the digestive system main role is to absorb the nutrients from food and basically sends it to our bloodstream so our body can use it. So if this system is broken, it doesn't matter what you're eating, you're just not benefiting it from the food. So example, you're eating a piece of broccoli and it's packed with vitamin K, vitamin C, and folate, and just to name a few. Now, if your digestive system is not doing its job, then you're not extracting these nutrients and sending them to your body as you should. So hence the phrase, you are what you digest. So many textbooks will actually tell you that our digestive process will begin in our mouth when you chew the food. However, it really begins in your brain. So for example, imagine you're walking past an oven and you smell a pizza baking, or maybe a cake. So you get that whiff of that nice smell, and the first thing that happens is that you start salivating. So the saliva in your mouth is packed with enzymes. And enzymes basically help us break down the food so we can soak up the nutrients. Actually, fun fact, all enzymes are protein, but anyway. So we have enzymes to break down carbs, and we have different enzymes to break down protein, and we have different enzymes to break down fat. However, enzyme deficiency is a very common and often inherited condition. Most common one that we probably all heard of is the lactose intolerance. And that's where a common enzyme that breaks down lactase, which is the sugar found in milk, is missing. So people who are missing this enzyme, if they end up consuming any dairy products, they'll get a broad spectrum of symptoms. They can get gassy, can make them very uncomfortable. The symptoms will be related to that digestion, which we'll discuss later when we talk into food intolerance. But lactose intolerance is a very common enzyme deficiency. Actually, one of very common one that you may not be aware of also, and a study has found that 60% of the world population are missing this enzyme, which is an enzyme that breaks down legumes, so stuff like beans, lentils, chickpeas. And that's why a lot of people, when they eat beans, for example, they get really gassy and bloated. So that's the symptom of the food intolerance. A lot of people think when they eat Mexican food and they get sick, it's because of all the fiber, but it could actually be because they're missing the enzyme that breaks down that specific type, a specific molecule in legumes like beans and lentils. While enzyme insufficiently can develop later in life, which is why you can develop actually food intolerance at any stage in your life. So this could be the inability of your pancreas to produce enzymes, or something could have malfunctioned in your body along the way. So basically you're not producing enough enzymes to break down the food. So you have your deficiency and you have your insufficiency. Both are very common, but like I said, with deficiency, it's mostly inherited. Now, a very common condition that affects digestion, which is written here, it's the EPI, or basically the eccrine pancreatic insufficiency. So this is the disorder where the pancreas is just not producing enough enzymes to help you digest the food. And this is actually very, very common condition. The most common symptom for this condition is diarrhea, and not just once or twice. It's like you have diarrhea for a few days. So if that's the case, you should see a doctor. All right, let's now talk about the distinction between food intolerance and food allergy, because a lot of times I see people mixing them up. So the symptoms for food intolerance develop gradually. So basically within hours of you eating the food. They're also mainly linked to your digestive system. So we're talking about bloating, gas, discomfort, diarrhea maybe, along the line of your digestive system. So sometimes the symptoms are very mild that you wouldn't even know you had a food intolerance. Like I said, it could eat a food and you just felt really bloated afterwards, and you're gonna attribute it to maybe the portion were too big and whatnot, but it could be a food intolerance. But a lot of people would have food intolerance that they're actually not aware of. While food allergy, which is a lot more serious, it's related to your immune system, and it basically elicits an immune system reaction. So the symptoms are very severe and a lot of times life-threatening, and they occur within minutes of eating the food. So this could be anything from a rash, a skin rash, to an inability to breathe. Like I said, the symptoms are very severe, because basically what happens is that your immune system starts attacking the food. Like it looks at the food as if it's an allergen and starts creating antibodies to attack it. So it's a very, very serious condition. So you would know the difference. That's what I'm trying to say. Now we're gonna get into my favorite part of this webinar, and it's really the fascinating world of the gut microbiota. So like a fingerprint, basically each person has a very, very different gut microbiota. So no two people will have the exact same environment. Our gut bacteria actually changes through life, and it's largely dependent on our genetics, our lifestyle, our diet. But basically what you need to know is that the more diverse your gut microbiota is, the healthier you are. So we always aim to have a diverse microbiota. Why do we need to have this healthy gut microbiota really? Like, what does it do? So a lot of things. For starters, it really helps us to digest food. It produces bacteria that helps us digest the different kind of food, like the fat, the protein, and the carbs. It also produces vitamins, like it mentioned here, vitamin B12 and vitamin K. It protects us against pathogens. So basically we don't get sick often. So one of the signs that you don't have a healthy gut microbiota is that you get sick a lot. And most importantly, it stimulates our immune system. So basically, if the immune system is not exposed to our microbiome, it cannot maturate, because the microbiome is basically a community-like environment that includes the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, the cells, and the immune system needs to be exposed to all kinds of different things to actually get stronger. So think about like probably my generation and the one before had, like me personally, I used to play in the dirt and the mud a lot. And you used to spend a lot of times outside as a child. So that gets you exposed to all kinds of stuff, which makes your immune system much stronger than it is with kids today, where they're spending more time watching TV or playing games on phones. And studies have actually shown a link between a lot of diseases that are available today and a less diverse gut microbiota. So point is, I'm saying, try to spend time outdoors when you can. So because when your immune system doesn't maturate properly, it starts attacks non-pathogenic substances. So it starts attacks things that it shouldn't attack. Like for example, food. So that's when you develop a food allergy, like maybe celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. It can even start developing type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease where the pancreas can't make insulin because the immune system attacks it. So like I said, the immune system is key to be exposed to this different microbiota in order for it to really develop properly. Our gut bacteria affects several aspects of our well-being. I mentioned this briefly in the intro, but we know it affects, for example, there's a link between our gut microbiota and obesity. And studies have shown that if you take the gut microbiota of overweight mice and plant them in healthy mice, these mice actually start gaining weight. That's how fascinating it is. Also, it affects our metabolism, because other studies have also done on mice have shown that the gut bacterial compositions affects the ability that these mice can convert carbohydrate and fat. So they're not actually able to use them as energy. And that can help, for example, develop diseases like type 2 diabetes. So basically, if this is just an overview to show you how important our gut bacteria is, it can play a role in your weight, which I'll talk later about how the way you eat really helps develop this gut microbiota. But some of the factors you need to understand how is really the diversity of gut microbiota can be influenced. And the starters is mode of delivery, and that's what I mean is birth. Because, for example, a C-section born child will have a less diverse gut microbiota than someone who's born naturally. And that's because a lot of the microbiota of the mother is transferred through the vagina to the child. Also, breastfeeding versus formula was a big topic of controversy for a long time, because human milk includes an insane amount of prebiotic, which is food for bacteria, and provides the baby with a lot of healthy bacteria too. Formula milk doesn't, but now they're trying to work hard to create a lot of these formulas to mimic basically human milk. Like they're trying to obviously add a lot of things to it, and some of them came quite close, but it's still nothing like the human milk. Also, the antibiotic use. Antibiotics, I mean, I'm sure there are cases where they're very necessary and can save lives and all, but the more we use antibiotics, the more we kind of damage the composition of our gut microbiota. Most importantly, that I need to talk about the stress, because this can actually have a different webinar, because the stress really plays a role in everything, and it affects everything from your brain to your stomach. I mean, when you're stressed, you have a headache and your stomach hurts, and it really is affects every aspect of our functionality. And stress, elevated stress, so I'm talking about the stress level, cortisol, when it's elevated in the body, it really affects the composition of the gut microbiota. It damages big time. And that's someone who has chronic stress. I'm not saying if you're stressed a little bit in the day that it can affect it. I'm saying someone who's constantly under a lot of stress that can really ruin your gut microbiota. The last thing, which I mentioned previously, and it's not here on the slide because I just wanted to say, it's basically an asystemic environment. So the more we spend times indoors, the more we try to do things to prevent any kind of infection using all, right now, obviously we have a global pandemic, so we're all using all the disinfectant we can find, and that's obviously a necessity. But like I mentioned, the example with the kids, because the more you prevent yourself from being exposed to the outside environment, the less you help your gut microbiota to really develop and become as diverse as it needs to be. So again, spend time outdoors, guys. So I'm using some of the slides I'm using here is some of the slides I use on my Instagram account. So you'll find them, you'll find the design a little bit playful, and that's because that's how I keep it to get the attention of people. So I'm gonna start here with talking about the difference between probiotics and prebiotics. So prebiotics basically are fibers that stimulate the gut microbiota, which are referred to as probiotics. So in layman terms, prebiotics are the food for probiotics. Probiotics are bacteria that are actually still alive after consumption. And the term was originally introduced to be the opposite of antibiotics. So probiotics strengthen the immune system. And for a microbe to be called a probiotic, it must reach the small intestines alive. And the reason I mention this is because a lot of times you'd buy items from the store, which will say they have probiotics and live probiotics and all of that. And this is tricky because the grocery store has to control the temperature of these items to make sure that even after you buy them and you travel to your house and you eat them, that the bacteria is still alive. So this could be tricky because they really need to be temperature controlled. But probiotics is referred to anything, a bacteria that is still alive when it reaches the small intestines. And prebiotics are the food for probiotics. They also are really key to improve the good to bad bacterial ratio in our environment. All right, so this topic is very dear to me because right now it's gaining a lot of popularity. It's a little bit gross, but we're all adults here. This has been talked about recently a lot, the fecal microbiota transplant. And really it is, as the name suggests, so it's planting basically the feces of one human into another. Why, you may ask? Well, for starters, the human feces has over 1,000 different bacteria. So whenever even there's a study where they need to culture a bacteria, they always use the sample of feces because it's just the best. Now, in this transplant, what happens is that a healthy sample is taken from a patient, usually frozen, then give it to another patient, either via capsules or a tube through the nose, or via an enema, which is, the latter is the more popular method being used. Now, fecal transplants were first used to cure food poisoning, but now there's a number of fascinating trials and studies happening for fecal transplants, where basically they're trying to restore gut microbiota to people that have an out of balance gut microbiota. And this has worked. There's trial and very successful, where someone that basically can't reverse the damage that's been done to them through normal methods that we'll discuss later, so they have to resort to that. What also has been very, very promising is the treatment for type 2 diabetes. So basically they take the healthy fecal, the healthy feces from, a healthy person, and they transplant it into a patient that has type 2 diabetes, and it has shown to reverse insulin resistance. And that's amazing. I mean, there's still trials, and like I said, they have been successful, but the treatment is not actually being used right now. So it just shows you how much our microbiota is affecting our wellness, and can actually do in terms of in the medical community, hopefully in the future. But yeah, so these are the two things that have been very, very successful recently. And a lot of people have been talking about it. I really suggest you guys just Google the topic and read some of the things that have been happening. All right, so as I mentioned, I'll just go over the diseases that are more common when it's really, that comes to our digestive system or our gut microbiota. And the first one is the inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. So basically, this is where our colon becomes inflamed. So IBD is also another term for Crohn's disease, if you heard of it, or ulcerative colitis, or UC. The causes are mainly genetic, but this is a chronic inflammation, basically. So people can get it at any age. And the symptoms will involve sometimes like severe diarrhea, sometimes even bloody, abdominal pain, stomach swelling. IBD, unfortunately, cannot be treated. There is no cure for it. However, it does have inactive stages where it can just go into remission. But it is a chronic disease, and it's actually now more common in developed countries due to the prevalent stress and the high fat, high sugar diet, like in the US. So IBD is one of the more common diseases we come across. Another one would be a leaky gut. So a leaky gut is referred basically when the gut lining has large cracks or holes. So it allows partially digested food or toxins or even bacteria to penetrate. So that obviously changes the composition of our gut bacteria. It ruins it basically, and can help develop several chronic diseases. The causes are mainly genetic, but it also can develop if you're following a very low fiber diet. Some of the, like I put here, the usual suspect that can actually add to a leaky gut are, you have the processed sugar, the gluten if you have celiac disease, sugar, sodium, obviously trans fat, so that's everything in junk food, mainly the fried stuff, also cakes and bakes, and emulsifiers. Emulsifiers, guys, are basically added to food when you want to mix two liquids together. So for example, if I have water and oil, if I drop oil into water, the oil will stay there on the surface. You'll see it won't blend with the water. However, if I add emulsifiers, it'll make both blend. So it's just an additive that's added to some food, which you can also find when you buy things on the food label in the back. So it's not the greatest of additives, but yeah, it's one of the things that can actually lead to a leaky gut. Some of the things you find in front of you here are the common symptoms. Although I'm sure everyone would read this and think they have it, but just like know, like this is a big deal. So it wouldn't be just like you're tired, so you have a leaky gut, but always if you listen to your body, and like they say, listen to your gut. And if you feel this is something that resonates with you, then definitely go see a doctor. All right, so let's now talk about how can we improve our gut health? Like really, how can we make it better? So a lot of people, I mentioned before, our gut microbiota is affected by diet and lifestyle. So if I'm someone that from a very young age, I'm eating very unhealthy food. Maybe I'm a smoker, I drink a lot, I really don't do anything, I'm not exercising. So I've been probably doing a lot of damage to my gut microbiota for years and years and years. Now, is there hope for me? Absolutely. For most cases, people can definitely reverse the adverse effects and actually help their gut microbiota develop and become more diverse. In very rare cases, basically, and I don't mean to sound bleak, but the damage has been done. And that's when things like the fecal transplant can be a very promising treatment. But we're also going to talk about the various things that we can adopt to make sure our gut health is at a really functioning at an optimum level. So for starters, and I know this is going to sound a little bit like duh, but eat healthy. Eat healthy, high fiber foods. Because think about this, when you constantly eat high fat food like pizza or fries, your gut starts producing more of the bacteria needed to break down this pizza and fries. And then you throw off the balance of your gut microbiota because that bacteria will start dominating. And this is completely reversible if you stop, for example, eating pizza and fries and go back to eating like clean, high fiber foods. And some of the food you can really focus on, as you can see here in your slides, obviously fermented foods have always been hailed because they're always very rich in probiotics. Fermented foods, I'm talking about kefir, which is fermented milk, and anyone in Dubai, this can be found literally everywhere. You can have it, there's low fat, low sugar, they even have it in flavors, although I just recommend the good old fashioned kefir that you see in front of you here. But this is basically fermented milk, and it's very high in probiotics. Kimchi, which I know recently has been becoming all the rave. And basically this is fermented cabbage and radish, and you can find kimchi also in a lot of stores here. Sauerkraut, which is fermented cabbage, and sauerkraut people usually used to add it to hot dogs and salads and stuff, but it's really good for you. Kombucha, which I know it's tricky to find here sometimes in the UAE because sometimes it can include some alcohol, but you can still find it and order it. Even from the ripe market and places like that. Can help you guys at the end if you need to know where to find something specifically. But this is basically fermented tea, and again, it's very rich in probiotics. Stuff like green tea and dark chocolate, as you see here, they have a lot of polyphenols, which are really good for you too. So this is just an idea of what food you can try to include in your diet to make sure your gut health is in check. Other thing, which this is something I actually use myself, are digestive enzymes. So when we spoke about the digestive system, I mentioned that digestive insufficiency is something that can happen to you at any point in your life when you're just not producing enough enzymes, or digestive deficiency, which is more genetic, but also affects a lot of people. So basically digestive enzymes is the supplement that you see here, those tablets that you take with meals. And they, as the name suggests, they really are packed with enzymes. And the best one to find, you should find ones that should have all three enzymes you need. So basically protease, which breaks down protein, lipase, which breaks down fat, and amylase, which breaks down carbs. And you can find that, like I use this brand right here because I've used it before, but when you pick one, just make sure it's better for you if it's more plant-based. So that way you guarantee that the quality is higher, and plant-based enzymes usually also include fungal enzymes. So it's much better than animal-based. And the cleaner and more natural, obviously, the better. So no fillers or binders. So when you just hold on to the box, just make sure, like I said, it includes a variety of these enzymes. It's plant-based, and that's a good start for you. So digestive enzymes, like I said, you just take usually one tablet with a meal, and it really does help you digest it better. If you someone that is having problems, when you start taking them, you'll immediately feel the difference. Like you won't feel as heavy after each meal or sluggish as you maybe used to feel. So another thing you can do to protect your gut, well, like I said, listen to your gut. So if you're someone that constantly doesn't feel well after eating, then maybe you want to try the elimination diet. So the elimination diet is here to identify food intolerances. And yes, I know there are a lot of tests that are being promoted left and right about blood tests that can show your intolerances, but I'm here to tell you they're not accurate. The elimination diet actually is a lot more accurate, and it is the benchmark to identify food intolerance. It's more timely and requires you to do more, but you at least get to find out if you really have issues with certain foods. So the way it works is you eliminate certain foods. And when I say certain foods, the usual suspects are usually the same. So it's either dairy, gluten, soy, sometimes even meat, wheat, nuts. So you'll pick 3 or 4 food, and you will eliminate that for a period of 2 weeks. Then you will reintroduce this food over 3 days. So you have 3 days, and you'll start introducing the first one. Let's say the first one is dairy. You'll start having dairy for 3 days, and you're really gonna monitor how you feel. If the minute you start having dairy, if you really have issues with dairy, you would immediately feel it a few hours after consumption. So it'll be either an upset stomach or something on your skin, like anything that you felt might be wrong should manifest itself within those 3 days. Now, after those 3 days, you'll start introducing another food that you eliminated. Maybe that time will be nuts. And then again, you monitor how you feel with nuts. So basically this diet is 2 phases. You have 2 weeks where you eliminate the food, and then another 2 weeks reintroduction where you start introducing food one time after the other. And if you start feeling bad, then you're gonna start to pinpoint which food really does cause you discomfort. And if after the elimination period, when you cut out the food, if you're still not feeling well, then you should know that whatever symptoms you experience are not related to food, and then maybe you probably need to go see a doctor. But basically, the elimination diet is the easiest, best experiment you can do yourself to really pinpoint the food that causes you any kind of intolerances. And last but not least, of course, like I said, we should include high fiber in our diet. And I just wanted to add this slide at the end just to show you, I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with fiber, but what is fiber exactly? So fiber are plant-based compounds. We don't digest them, and they don't provide us with any calories. They can be broken down by our bodies. So there are 2 types of fiber. We have soluble fiber, which dissolves in water, something like simple carbs like fruits, and we have insoluble fiber, which forms and binds with water, forms like a gel-like and binds with water, and this makes you fuller. So you have your whole grains, your beans, some vegetables, actually like corn, are also insoluble. So you want to mix both in your diets because they're both very important. Now here the recommended daily more or less recommendation would be 3 to 40 grams. Now this is different from one person to another and really comes down to your calories, how much you eat a day. But this is just a very basic textbook guideline. And obviously, like I said, fiber is not just important to keep you full, but it's key to a healthy gut. And the first indication that you're not getting enough fiber in your body, if you don't have regular bowel movement, as in you don't go to the bathroom every day, then you know you should definitely increase your intake in fiber. All right, and now this has been all. I'm gonna get back now to the video and see if you guys wanna talk about anything, ask any questions, if anything was unclear, if I was talking too fast, just please hit me. So I see the Q&A. All right, so should I just take it on with Allison? All right, Allison, so I got the first questions. We hear a lot about acidity and acid diets. Does that impact our gut health? Yes, so acidity, of course, this is actually a symptom of the leaky gut that I mentioned. So one of the things when you have a hole in the lining of your gut is that acid, HCl, which is like the acid that we produce in our stomach to help us digest. This is a very, very powerful acid. So it can actually start leaking out. And this is a very, very serious problem. So I don't know about the acid diets, but I'm talking about the acidity level. And a lot of people actually tend to have that. And this is one of the symptoms. You'll get a lot of heartburn because the acidity level in your body is off balance. I hope that... Okay, so Betaine HCl, I would never recommend anyone to take that as a supplement unless a doctor tells you to, because like I said, we produce HCl, and for every healthy adult, we produce very well HCl. So HCl supplements are only there. Some people take them actually alongside digestive enzymes to help them further, but unlike digestive enzymes, this needs a doctor's recommendation because you don't want to take too much of that. So I don't see it as necessary for someone who doesn't have an issue. Like I said, digestive enzymes are more like the over-the-counter supplement that everyone takes and really don't affect you in any bad way. But HCl should not be taken lightly. Like don't walk into a store and just get that as a supplement. How do you know if you are overdoing the fiber? Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. So how do you know if you're overdoing the fiber? I was talking actually with Jesse about that before we started. So a lot of times people who start taking supplements like probiotics, which usually have fiber in them, or just basically eat a big salad, you can immediately feel really bad. You'll immediately get stomach discomfort. Like it can be bloating, it could be gas, it could be like pain that just to the touch of the stomach hurts. That's a sign of a lot of fiber. So it's always good to follow your guidelines. So like I said, everyone is different. The basic guidelines were the 40 grams a day. But for example, if I'm someone that eats 3,000 calories, my recommended intake would be higher. So each one is different, but you want to stick to the bare minimum. If you hit 40 grams a day, then you know you're doing it right and you're not, you don't need to add more fiber. But one of the signs, like I said, of having too much fiber in your body, and you will immediately notice that, like I said, if you're a new vegan person that just started the vegan diet, because that's a lot of fiber for the body. If you had a very big salad for a meal and you immediately feel bad. So yeah, a lot of fiber. The only bad thing about them is just that they make you feel bad because it's going to take a lot of time for the body to adapt to the increased dose. Any recommendations on supplements? So the ones only that I mentioned really in the webinar, so digestive enzymes, because this is like perfect. And for a lot of people, it really is important because like I said, most of us might not even know that we have food intolerances. And so, I mean, play it by ear. If you're someone that has been suffering, give it a try, go for a plant-based one and really see the difference. If you don't feel that it's helping you a lot, then don't waste your money. I'm one person that really did help me, and digestive enzymes really help me with big meals because sometimes I tend to eat big portions if I want to get my calories in and I didn't have time throughout the day. And that in cases like this, it really, really helps me feel better. So that's one thing. I don't usually recommend probiotic supplements for the reason I just mentioned, is that they make most people feel very uncomfortable for at least the first week. So that's why you want to build your dose. So instead, I would rather focus on probiotic rich food, stuff like I mentioned, fermented food, kefir, because they're easy to get, easy to include in the diet, and you'll have enough probiotics from that. So you don't need to supplement with it. But these are the supplements that can safely be used by anyone that I feel comfortable actually recommending because they don't need any medical advice. And I think that's all we need. How do I know if I need to take digestive enzymes? Yeah, Diana. So like I mentioned, it depends how you feel after each meal. How do you feel? Do you feel like every meal, regardless of the portion, hurts? You're uncomfortable? You get like these symptoms, like I said, the bloating, the stomach discomfort, the gas, then maybe you do. If you have been feeling like this, however, persistently for a long time, like I said, the elimination diet could be even better for you because then you can actually pinpoint what the problem is, because digestive enzymes will help you, yes, but they will never remove, like if you really have a food intolerance, you continue introducing that food in your diet, they're not going to be the answer. The answer would be, unfortunately, just to remove that food. So give them a try. Like I said, there's really no harm, and see how you feel. If you do feel a big difference, then you know, yeah, they are helping. But if you don't, then, and your symptoms still persist, then like I said, you definitely should talk to a doctor. Can you take enzymes and antacids? Yes, absolutely. Both of them, you can definitely take both. They both have very different functions, but I'm assuming the only times you would need Tima to take antacids is when you feel like to cure like heartburns. But do you take them do you take them all the time? because I don't see, because if there's a condition and you need to take them, fine, but usually antacid are just taken when, you know, like you're having just a bad reaction to something at that point, you know, to cure, like I said, a heartburn or something. But I wouldn't take both of them regularly all the time. Enzymes, yes, but not antacids. So does that mean a kale salad isn't the best food? I like how you think, Allison, because I'm someone that hates kale. Actually, the only way I include kale in my diet is I just put it in my shake in the morning. But what I'm saying is any vegetables, when you eat a lot of them, then yes, it's just going to make you feel discomfort. So that's why I'm saying it's good to fill your plate with the vegetables and salad, because they fill you up. But you also want to be careful about how much you overdo it, because at the end of the day, like I have photos of me eating a salad and I look like I'm in my second trimester. It really is that bad. Well, again, vegetables and especially leafy greens, they occupy big space in the stomach, which is why they're great, because they make us feel full. But too much of them, yeah, it's just going to make you feel very uncomfortable for a while. How long does it take to reset the gut? Ooh, that's a good one. If you had a cheat meal or haven't been on track for months, is there a length of time we know of, or just start to eat healthy? Well, obviously, of course, always just start to eat healthy. The jury is still out on this one. Like, and I'll tell you, this is, you know, most of the science out there. It depends how long the damage has been done. So if we're talking about one cheat meal, no, of course, that's like the next morning you're going to be fine. I mean, I cheat every Friday, but I have 6 days a week where I eat really well. So it's really not going to affect my gut health as much. But we're talking about people who are overweight, who are consistently choosing bad food. And for these people, yes, there's a very big damage. Can they reset it? Absolutely. But it basically takes as much time as it will take for them to lose the weight, because the more your weight is in check and the more you're prioritizing good, clean eating and activity daily to, let's say, a more sluggish lifestyle, that's how long it would take for the gut. So for someone like a cheat meal, don't even think about it. For someone who's been eating bad for months, it would also take the same amount of months to reset your gut. I have to take them every day at the start. Oh, okay. Oh, so Tima, you probably have some condition, but yes, you can definitely take antacid and enzymes together. Like I said, digestive enzymes are really nothing to consider. There's no side effects. But like I said, just be careful about the brand you choose, because there are a lot of, well, sketchy qualities out there. So plant-based is always better. Make sure sometimes the actual bottle will say no fillers, no binders. You really want to stick, the more natural it is, no chemicals whatsoever, it's just like really natural compounds, the better it is for you. And the better for your body will adapt to them, because they just mimic what your body produces. Can you talk a bit more about probiotic supplements sold in stores? Absolutely. Are they useful, and how can I know the good ones? Well, the good ones will, probiotics, actually, this is one of the things, they're not bad and good, but I would just focus, if you want to supplement with probiotics, only on probiotics. You'll see a lot of brands that mixes either probiotics with fibers or probiotics and prebiotics together to give you the ratio of whatnot. First of all, we're not qualified to just go into a store and figure out if this ratio, the good and bad and whatever, is good for me. So if you want to buy probiotic, focus only on that. But like I said, just be careful. And when you supplement with probiotic, you will feel a bit iffy the first couple of days, because your body's still getting adapt to this. It's different when you supplement it, because it's a concentrated dose, as when you get it from food, which is why I always prioritize probiotic are very easy to get from food. You have plenty of yogurts out there, even obviously the kefir, but even if for vegan people or people that are off dairy, you have a variety of fermented food that you can have. But really, it's just easier to get it from food. For whatever reason, if you think this doesn't work for you, then I would just go and find just a probiotic supplement, no mixing with it, nothing. And usually the dose, I remember, was 5 grams a day. Maybe you want to build up to that just to ease into your stomach. So maybe take half and then build it up after 3 days to 5 grams. If I am diabetic, does that mean I have for sure have enzymes deficiency? Well, it depends which type of diabetes you have, 1 or 2. Because and no, it doesn't necessarily mean that no. Can you tell me, Rahab, if it's type 1 or 2? Because one of them is an autoimmune disease and one of them you can develop later in life. Okay. Well, no, it doesn't necessarily mean you have an enzyme deficiency, and because we have different, have you ever eaten certain specific type of food and you felt really bad of it? Like, is there anything, because obviously of your condition, there are a lot of food that would be excluded, but right now, given your diet, is there anything that you eat and you feel that it's causing you any discomfort? I don't know, can you guys hear me? Hello. Well, in the meantime, you guys have any other questions? I'm still around. And I'm sure Jesse will share also my email, my number, my Instagram account. You can DM, email, text me anytime. Anything I know, I will answer. Anything I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know.